And also, exporter should be the person who wants to export, really export, isn't it? I mean, if
you have to have the love for the business as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I personally hate touring, right? Going on a flight, traveling. I've done, my last tour was 27 days, 12 countries, and around 8,000 to 9,000 kilometers of road, where my brother was with me and he didn't drive at all. I'd like to.
Really?
Yeah, I'd like to note that as well.
Oh.
He hates driving. He only drives when he can.
And your sister was sleeping back.
Yeah, she was taking selfies and so on. The responsibilities of a big brother.
Yeah.
But
Must be.
But yeah, I hate the touring side of it. Like all that traveling, removing that suitcase every night, going into the hotel, getting up, packing that bag again and going back in that car is very bad for me. I don't like it. But every dialogue I have with my customer motivates me even more.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's important, right? It's not, all right, you might be a guy who likes sightseeing. I really hate it. I don't really mind sightseeing, but my main motivation is my customer. So every
Your
day
brother as well.
Yeah.
Neither.
Yeah, I mean, you know the story about my
Yeah,
brother.
your brother, his brother was in Miami, and in Miami, he just took the picture of Miami Beach.
Well, he was driving.
That's all.
He was driving by it.
Yeah, driving by. Yeah,
He didn't stop and enter, and take a moment to see.
When we asked him that, why didn't you, enjoy yourself over there? I mean, Miami Beach, it's a kind of, dreams of many youngsters. You know what he told us? He said, I was in business. In business, no joyful things.
Yeah.
Allowed.
I mean, I'm judging him, but I'm kind of the same as well. I'd rather tour to the other city or the other country, wherever I'm going, rather than go into a hotel and sleep. I mean, 6-7 hours is more than enough sleep for a human being, or maybe 8 hours if you can get there earlier. But you don't really have much time to be out and, go sightseeing or go to a cafe. I mean, you're there on a time period and you're there on a budget. Of course, everyone has their right to have a joyful time. But I guess it's just the way we are, We don't really like going around and doing stuff that's unnecessary during that time. Our main focus...
as a person, as an exporter, you have to focus on business.
Yeah, it's
even you are in the one of the most beautiful city in Europe or in another part of the world.
But we both say this with Eray, is when we're touring, we're already seeing the city, right? You're already seeing its culture. Basically, you'll be able to you kind of be able to identify it. You're just missing not going to see very nice views and entering museums and such. But apart from that, you already see the city, right? And that's more than enough for us. You breathe its air, and it's more. But I'm there on business. My main focus is business, because whatever I plant there during that time period, and mind you, we are on a time limit. I mean, I say I had 27 days, but that was planned as 20. I extended it for 7 more days. It's very tiring on the body, and you want to come back as soon as possible. But every step you take there is maybe, I don't know, one of the biggest customers you can have. Potentially one of the biggest customers you can have. So it's always very important. I mean, my brother and me as well, when we tour, I rarely have an example where I can say I wrote a big order and came back to the country. No, it was more about dialogue, making good contacts, and keeping that relationship strong. And then when you came back to Turkey, you'd invite them, you'd go visit if they have like a person who keeps track of their loadings, and then you keep pushing that door until you eventually open it.
First you explore the country and then discover the market.
Of course. I mean, for the last 3 years, I've been overly focused on Europe. And it's like my 5th tour, which I've spent maybe around 70 to 80 days in, or maybe 90 days. I mean, I've gone from Sweden all the way to Austria, Switzerland, Belgium. I've been all around that whole area. And my first 2 tours was hell. In fact, I remember I did complain to you during that time period about how bad of a market this place is. And I remember your wise words then. You said it's not easy generating a market for your company. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience. And eventually that is what it took.
Slowly but surely.
Absolutely. I mean, my first tour was the most tiring one, where you had to actually understand the market and go to every door that you see, because you don't know who has what. I mean, you see their Google pictures maybe, but that only shows like 2% of the company. But when you sit down with them, understand them, see what they're doing, there's a store in Europe which, if I didn't really know their reference, I probably wouldn't have entered. They had like a bed and a table on top of it, and on top of that they have a chair. And that guy done one of the most businesses I've ever done in Europe in a very short period of time. That's why I think being able to enter every door and actually sitting down and spending time with those people, and you can generate this image of who will be able to do what with your products, who's fit, who can and who cannot, right? My first tour, I probably visited maybe like 120 to 150 customers during like a 20 to 30 day period. But now when I go back to Europe, you know, I have 2-3 customers in every city that I go to, and I just visit them, and I just continue moving on like that. And it probably adds up to like 30 to 40 customers now.
When you start in Selenga, how many customers have you had?
Right, so that's another issue that we had. I'm going to take a little time here, so apologies for that. When I first started, we were very focused on the Middle Eastern markets, especially Saudi Arabia. We did a lot of business to Saudi Arabia. And honestly, the company didn't have any energy left to actually go and explore other markets and enter other markets or do like any marketing at all. So we were just producing and sending and producing and loading, and that's how we've advanced. But the time where I started, Saudi Arabia was closed due to unknown reasons. Yeah. So once that market dropped, we had roughly around maybe 20 to 25 customers during that time. But mainly most of them were from the Middle East.
Middle East. Now?
And now we've actually gone up to 60 countries, and we're roughly around 160 to 170 customers. It was just me and my boss who took care of the export when we first started. Now we're 4 people in total, so we've got one taking care of the Russian markets, one taking care of the Middle East and African markets, and me, who I'm taking care of the European and American markets. So we've had to unload some of our responsibilities, some of our customers, and I think it was the best move we could have done for the company's future.
How many years does it take? I mean, growing up to 160.
I mean, really, I can't really take the last 2 to 3 years into account of Inegal because of how badly downhill business has gone. But if we're talking about the first year when I started, I didn't have enough time to actually tour, because I had companies coming from every single country to the Mobilium AVM, and I was able to catch a lot of customers from there. I'm talking from Russia to Africa to America. Even Mongolian customers came. Like, we had such an attraction. But in the last 2 to 3 years, it's very, very slimmed down. And now it's very focused on touring, basically. But if I am to say, I think it will take, if you're talking about one person only, and we're taking the current market into account, I think it will take multiple years, maybe 4 to 5 years, to be able to achieve that level of customer.
So at least, can we say at least it is about 5, 6, 7 years?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, because
I'm asking this question for the beginners. I mean, beginners for the exporting.
Right. So the immediate fireworks for an exporter is a myth. It's absolutely a lie. Maybe back when there was only like 10 exporters in Inegal who were actually able to go overseas and bring a lot of orders in, maybe those times were a good time. But if we're talking about the current time, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work. Before we entered the European markets, they always said Europe's a bad market. They have a lot of requests that we can't supply. They have a lot of this and that.
Is it really?
No, absolutely not. Of course they have. Of course, I mean, every company and every country has the same request. You know, send proper products to me and send what I ordered. You know, it doesn't change. You can go to Russia, you can go to Africa, you can go to America. It's all the same. I went to the UK, a customer said I wanted a blue sofa. They sent me pink. I went to Germany. They said I bought 1,000 sofas. 200 of them was wrong. And now they don't take responsibility. There's so many lessons that you can take out of this. You know, it's basically just send what you're selling. Know what you're selling first and sell it properly. Don't try to cheat. There's no reason to cheat. If you do, you only stand here for a couple of years and then you go bye-bye. And that's the unfortunate bad side to it. But a company, yeah, as you said, it does take 5 years roughly to be able to achieve. I mean, the 160 that I'm saying are active clients. You know, I'm not saying they buy every month, but during the year, these clients, if we take into account of how many customers we've contacted during this time, thousands of customers. I'm talking thousands. I can give 1,000 from Russia, maybe 1,000 from Africa, 1,000 from America. You know, there's a lot of customers.
Make it simple. So you're saying that I have contact at least 5,000 companies, but now I have got a connection with 160 companies.
I don't want to be modest, but I have an email list which is over 10,000 customers, which I've gathered throughout the years. I've been doing this since 2012. Even when I wasn't actively working, I was giving support to people who were. I've had over 10,000 customers, which I'd like to just touch on this subject as well. During that time period where I left the LED manufacturer and I was looking for an exporter job in Inegöl, and business was fast back then in Inegöl, talking about 2015 and 16, every exporter manager or the company owner that I spoke with asked for a customer basis from me. Okay? And because I didn't have that customer base, I wasn't employed. No matter how much I knew about export, no matter what I achieved in a very different sector, it had no importance at all. But guess what? Customer base is nothing. A customer base is only something that you can rely on to maybe sell products. If I leave my company today and I enter an X company, no one's going to buy my products because of my face.
Yeah.
I always say this, you're an exporter as much as your company is, right? I represent my company. I represent Selenga. If Selenga has made a bad name in the markets, I can maybe fix it, but it's a very slim chance. And we have multiple examples of this where an exporter does a couple years of export and then leaves and tries to do their own thing and is unsuccessful and comes back. You know, you have to, making a customer base is actually working for the company. The customer base that I've achieved here in Selenga is not because I wrote to them. I mean, how many customers can you sell just by writing to them from WhatsApp? It's nearly impossible. You have to sit, talk, understand.
Face to face.
Face to face, exactly. And unfortunately now, because technology is so advanced, WhatsApp is basically nothing now. Because I don't do this personally. I actually hate it. And I think a lot of exporters shouldn't do this either. Is where they would sit midnight, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and they'll send 100 photos to the customer. What are you expecting? A customer to say, wow, I was looking for this. Sell me this now. No, it's not like that. What you do is you force them to back away from their phone and make it harder on us. Because you want to sell one product, but you've got 2,000 more other people trying to do this. Right? Plan your tour, plan your market, see where you can enter, and take your time with it. Export is a very long process. It's not something that's just, okay, I'm an exporter, let me sit down on this PC and sell products.
How many countries have you been? And your brother and sister?
Well, my brother's toured more than me. My brother's been to around 8 countries in Africa. He's been on a Europe tour with me. The Europe tour consists of around 10 to 12 countries, by the way. In Europe, I've been to around 14 countries. I also done a crazy trip up to Sweden and Denmark.
Scandinavian.
Yeah, which was totally pointless, but because their personnel was here. Anyway, Eray's been to America. He's been to 5-6 countries in the Middle East. I've been to Iraq, Iran, Ukraine. Aylin's been on a Europe tour with us as well. So I'd say in total, we've been to roughly around 25 to 30 countries. And I mean, the advantage of having a brother in export is I use their knowledge as well. So while I'm focused on the European markets, I can use my brother's reference from the African markets and try to contact them, or at least get a general idea of who's there and who's not. And when I do come face to face with them in the showroom or in a fair, and I can approach them accordingly. But yeah, that's what I've used to my advantage until now. Yeah.
So what is the percentage of your selling in your company, exports and domestic?
I mean, to be honest, we didn't have domestic sales up until recently. In 2018, we decided to cut domestic sales completely and focus purely on export until we opened our showroom in Mobilium. That's how it went. But once we opened our showroom, a lot of those domestic customers started to come back. And so we had to enter the market again. But I mean, I'd say it's roughly around 90 to 10% export purely. And we're fully focused on it.
90 to 10%.
Yeah. I mean,
But
we are aiming to make this hot.
Yeah, but you know that it should be at least 30 to 70.
I mean, if you were asking our opinion personally, we wouldn't want to enter the domestic markets because it's a different hassle and it doesn't really meet with your expectations of export. But I mean, with the current market standards and the product line that we're producing as well, we produce luxury furniture. So large sums of sales don't happen with us. So we sell maybe 2 sets of bedrooms, 5 sets of bedrooms, 4 sets of sofas. And these are different customers.
Which regions in Turkey you sell most?
In Turkey, we mostly sell to the Eastern markets.
Eastern?
Yeah, Eastern markets. Because our product line matches their expectations more. You know, gold, painted, heavy products.
Yeah, what I call jafjafli.
Yeah, absolutely. The more you move to the West, the more...
Porsche.
Yeah, the more unlikely it becomes. You have a couple of customers in Istanbul. I mean, a couple of customers from, I'd say like from Ankara onwards, our products do sell.
I see.
But moving more to the West is harder.
So may I ask, is it the same products that you sell to Iraq? I mean...
So when we yes, it's very identical. It's very identical. But when we do produce a product, we try to keep in mind every single market. It's a very tough time period for us when producing a product. But we don't go overboard with let's say, the gold parts or the paint. We try to keep it minimalistic in every region. Our wardrobe used to be 3 meters. Now we've dropped it down to 260 to be able to enter more Western countries, you know, like Europe and other areas.
Yeah. But when you go to Japan, it will be...
Yeah, I mean, do you know, the day I do sell to Japan, I'll be a very happy exporter. I haven't actually tried to sell there, but as I said, we try to keep in mind every single market. That's how we've achieved to be able to enter so many markets in a short period of time. I mean, in 3 years, we've gone from 10 countries to 60 countries where we actively trade to. And this is 10 countries in Africa, a lot of countries from Asia, America, Canada, Europe. Being able to enter them all is you have to spend a good time in producing and designing.
When you rank the countries and regions, what can you count the first 10?
Do you mean as in sales?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say it's kind of, I mean, if you're talking potential-wise, it's very different.
Yeah, potentially.
Potential-wise, I'd say the current market, which is the most satisfying at the moment, is the Russian markets.
Russian.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very big market there, and we've actually made a very good name there. My colleague recently came back from a tour from over there, And Russian markets, I'm talking about the other Turkish countries as well, you know, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, all of these countries all together.
Maybe when the war is finished, Ukraine will be.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
second.
we're very excited about Ukraine. We do have a couple sales here and there to Ukraine still, even when the war's ongoing. But we do expect that to be higher. Even the Russian markets themselves are slow recently.
I see.
But the Asian markets in general is a very satisfactory market. And then when you move over, I'd say Africa in the current time period is a very good market. But due to the unstable economy there,
Yeah.
Receiving money and doing loadings is pretty hard at the moment. So that's why it's kind of backfiring there. American markets are very nice, but America needs a lot of work and time. My brother went there recently for like 30 days. But he needs probably around another 60 days to be able to identify what he will be able to do, and then spend another 60 days, 90 days to be able to
a company who wants to sell products to USA, he has to send a person or representative, let's say, at least for 3 months.
In a whole time period, yes. I mean, my brother went down a whole month and rented a car from like Miami and went all the way to New York, and then he drove that road all the way back. When you look at it, it's very pointless to drive all the way back to Miami. But what he did was, on the way back, he visited those companies that he missed. And so he done a full 100% tour of the east side of America. Now, the next time he goes, he's going to go
Just the east side of the
Just
America.
the east side, yeah.
Yeah.
And this took around 30 days. I mean, you could maybe finish it in 20 to 25, but he took a good time period and took 30. American markets are very different. I mean, every market has their own demands, their own way of business, and it varies from every country. I mean, if you look at USA now, I hear it is...
USA is the biggest importer.
They are the biggest importer, but there's also the reality check as well, right? When you talk about America, there's companies which not one production in Senegal can supply to.
Of course.
Right? And then there's also the other companies which are like the companies you sell to the Middle East and in Africa and in Russia and all of those areas. You have to pinpoint them. You have to be realistic with what you can achieve and what you're aiming for. I mean, today, if you try to supply for, I don't know, let's say Ashley Furniture, you know, it's impossible. You don't have the capacity, and you will have the capacity not to meet their demands. There's ridiculous companies in America that buy ridiculous numbers of furniture and ridiculous amounts of containers. I think the only closest example we can give is probably the Middle East, who buys that much of a large sum of furniture. But as I said, we have to be realistic. And I mean, today in Europe, when I tour Europe, I don't really focus very large companies. There's a lot of well-known names in, let's say, Germany and Switzerland who actually do large sums of business. I won't be able to supply for that. It's a very different demand they have. That's why I slim down my research and I aim for companies, you know, and these companies are mainly Muslim owners, Turkish owners, and it's these type of people that you're going to do business with. But then again, if you are to rank today, if you look at the numbers that we sell export furniture to, Germany is, I think, the third largest importer of furniture from Turkey, and that's a large market that we're afraid to enter.
It is. What do you think about illegal furniture quality system? IMOS started.
All right, so firstly, I think we 100% need something like that, because I've had this argument a lot, even with myself and with customers as well. I get angry at a customer because he's worked with an unknown supplier in Inegöl and he's had a lot of problems. So he keeps talking bad about the city that we're representing. But then I'm taking a look at the supplier. He has to start off from somewhere, but he's bad in himself. And so he's harming the business. So who are we to blame here? Whereas if we do have, I can give an example from a logistics point of view. So the logistics chain has a supply, let's say a group called WCA, right? And these are insured, known logistics companies. So when you do cross trade, and I look for a logistics company today in Turkey, or I look one in the UK, or I look one in America, I look if it's WCA verified. If it has WCA membership, that means WCA is insuring my business. So if I do have an issue with them, then I have insurance. And I think that's exactly what we need.
Yeah.
If the supplier chooses to work with someone outside of the high quality that we're trying to create here, then that's his fault. Then he can't badmouth our city. Because we have a whole... I mean, my first initial thought was, you know, let's bring procedures in for a company to be able to export. They have to have certain qualities and certain, I don't know, machineries, programming, personnel. I mean, today you do an export from an unknown company. The guy doesn't know what he sent. He's invoiced you. He sent the products to you. He doesn't know how many he sent. He doesn't know the cubic meters of it. He doesn't know the weight. He doesn't know the packages. And he goes, oh, I've done export. No, you haven't done export. That's not export. And you're giving me a hard time now because I'm trying to export your products, which you can't even give me an idea of. That's why I, as I said, I mean, maybe it won't be this strict, but the high quality, I think, is going to add a very large quality into our city and into our city's brand as well. I think Inegöl is a brand. If you take a look at it as a whole, the Inegöl brand will be very, very more delicate.
I believe that if I call it IQ, high quality, Inegöl quality. If it happens, if it's built, it is.
Yeah.
I believe that it's our exports percentage will be at least 200% more in 2 years.
I partially agree with that. I do think it will add more sales. But it's more, the more area that I'm focused on is the quality of work we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the worst scenario I have when I do go on tours is the bad mouth that happens to my city. And it's not just my city's fault. It's the supplier's fault as well.
Yeah.
Everyone has their fault.
But that supplier is from Inegöl.
Yeah, he is. But when you look at it as a whole, the only person or the only area that's being blamed is the city.
Yeah.
So once we counteract that and people do good exports, you know, no delays in the documentations, no delays in the production. Of course, there's going to be problems. We're doing man-made stuff here. There's always going to be problems. But it's to be able to bring this to a minimum area. Once we gain that quality, then I believe more interest will be arriving to Inegöl. The more we start to advertise this. And once it starts off, if we gain a couple of, I don't know, maybe examples where in real life scenario where it's actually good.
And also, if you hear any problem, any complaints, there will be a center, there will be a kind of building who you can call. Look, this company is from Inegöl and making business.
Exactly.
And also it affects not only me, hundreds of me.
Of course, hundreds of every exporter that happens. The first tour I went on Europe, I was going to cry about the bad mouthing that I got from my city. And I was at the point where I was going crazy, like, do these guys actually do business? And the more I got into it, their main supply chain is Inegöl. No matter however you look at it.
Yeah.
So not they can be without Inegöl, not Inegöl can be without them. So we need that partnership. And I think that high quality will be a magnificent step towards the better Inegöl.
I believe Uğurcan Turgut will do it.
Absolutely. He has my 100%
He's young,
support for that,
he's energetic. I believe. I get the energy from him.
I don't think there's two rights, right? There's only one right.
One right, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's on the right path. And I think Inegöl should be supporting him with this project that he has.
The last question.
Yeah.
What do you think about İMİDER?
I wish I had İMİDER back in the day when I was coming up. Being able to go onto a WhatsApp group or being able to enter a room with this many experienced people and being able to ask questions about markets, about touring, about export operations, everything, even a product that you're looking for, you have that support, that community that can support you. And alongside that, I think, being in and out with customers is a good thing for them as well. Like High Quality will be, İMİDER is also there at the moment, who, when a problem does arise from a customer, they can contact İMİDER and İMİDER will intervene and try to resolve that issue. So I think it's a good thing. I think education should be a bit more focused on, but as I said, I think it's a wonderful community and I think it should be here throughout Inago's history. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for new exporters who's coming up to be able to be a part of something
For the
like
new
İMİDER.
exporters, as you know, that we teach English language here.
Absolutely. Which I think is a big missing.
On behalf of İMİDER,
Yeah,
by
absolutely.
BBT English courses.
Yeah, I've had the chance to see some of your students, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful community. I hope it's here for very long years to come.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you as well.
I
It's
think
been a
this
pleasure.
program will be 2 weeks program. That is why thank you for sincere talking,
It's been my pleasure.
and I wish for the next program, I really wish to see you, 3 of you.
Yeah, then we'll have a bit more stories about our export tours and such.
Yeah. That
It'll
is
be a
why
much more-
that is why I'm not asking you the stories of your touring.
Yeah,
time.
Eray has a lot of interesting stories in Africa, which
yeah.
you have to listen to. Yeah.
I know. So most of them I know. That is why. As a family, we love each other. And they accept me as a big brother in their family. That is why, as we sat in Turkish, samimi. Yeah, that is Export Talks. Thank you so much.
It's been a
Thank you
pleasure,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
pleasure.
your real and frankly knowledge and information. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. sir.
Muchas gracias.
been a
Vielen
pleasure.
Dank.